Western Australia, but I've included them north of the Tropic of Capricorn. There's birds in the interior there that are interesting, and I thought I would include them as well. So there's a few to go through. I probably won't get through them all. I've been a bird watcher most of my life and photographer in depth, I guess, well, not in depth, but enthusiastically with a digital camera. That's what made the difference for me. The actual being able to take as many as I liked until I got the one I wanted. So that's about it. So we'll get started. The first one is this is a painted finch that we saw on the Tanami track. It's not a bird we come across very often, a few times, but it's a very beautiful bird, just like a jewel in the outback, amongst all the dryness. It's just a lovely bird to come across. It's the same bird, but actually flew to the ground. Just a lovely thing to see up close. This was taken Kimberley area. I can't remember. We do a lot of roadside stops, so I really can't remember some of them because they're just indistinguishable sometimes. But this is the same bird, same sort of bird, same species. It's painted finch with I believe it's a female, which has got the less intense colouring underneath. But a lovely pair. This was taken. The Ord River crosses the Great Northern Highway in Western Australia, and it is actually just sand, a very wide area of sand and trees at the time of the year that we go. There are a few pools of water that attract finches. A lot of birds, it's not big enough for them. We find that I did see a pair, which you'll see later on, a pair of jabiru, which were wandering around. I think they were looking for water, but it was very difficult for them to find. There were not many pools like this. These are a flock of long-tailed finches, which often congregate together and have a bath and really enjoy that sort of water. But for bigger birds, it's a bit hard. This is a pair of long-tailed finches up on the road near, if you know Barclay Roadhouse, it's north, the Tablelands Highway meets Cape Crawford and goes to the left, you get the Carpentaria Highway. And it was along there that we saw those. Beautiful pair of birds. This was in a parking area that we found just to get out and have a rest, and there were just a few pools of water that cars had left behind from things they tipped out on the ground, and they were just so thirsty. It seemed that these three long-tailed finches and a masked finch just came down and just stayed there until it was just about all gone. It was just amazing. Water is really precious for these birds in the outback. This is just another masked finch. We saw that, just a better view of it. Another lovely bird. This is a personal favourite. This is a starfinch. We saw that in the Pilbara at a place called Millstream Chichester National Park. It's a lovely area which has got, this bird was said to be on the cusp of sort of being endangered in certain areas. I'm pleased to say in the Pilbara at Millstream Chichester it's quite plentiful, and the next photograph is a flock of them taken at dusk that was just behind where we were camping. So that was really nice to see that they're in numbers. Just a lovely bird. Another finch. This is a zebra finch. There were a whole flock of them around. They are very plentiful in the outback, but a beautiful bird to come across. They frequent a lot of roadside stops near water tanks, anywhere where they can get food, seeds, seed plants they look for, and most of all water. Beautiful finches. These are two juveniles. It's hard to pick whether they're male or female at that stage, but I guess the orange cheeks start to come out eventually, but even though they're quite big, it's still hard to tell. This is a crimson finch, which is sort of partly got its plumage. This was up in Kununurra, where they are very plentiful, especially around the lake. They are right near the water's edge usually, just hopping around. There's so many of them and they're so beautiful. And this next one is it's got its full plumage and they're just blood red. They're just beautiful. And the one at the top, I believe, is a female. She's just got a touch of the red, but certainly not like the male, who's just stunning. This is, of course, the double-barred finch, beautiful bird again, with the lovely colouring. It seems to me almost over-decorated. It's just got these beautiful colourings on the back with the spots, and then it turns around, and it just looks beautiful from the front, that lovely heart shape around the face. And they're quite plentiful in the outback. We can see them in a lot of places, and I know you see them here, but they're lovely to spot. This was a big find, as you can imagine. Chased it for quite a few years. We've been told it was in a few places, Kakadu being one place, but we never saw it there. We did look, but we never saw it. So we had read that it was available, that it was in Keep River National Park, which is on the border of the Northern Territory and Western Australia on the Great Top Road. And we just thought we'd go and have a look, we'd camp a few days and see what happened. Anyway, we hadn't seen it after a couple of days, and a ranger came through the caravan area, and we just said, is it here? Is there anywhere we could possibly see it? And he said, there's a couple of creeks, small creeks that you cross on the way in, one of which has a very small pool of water left. And he said, sometimes you can see it there early morning, about 6 o'clock. So we thought, well, what have we got to lose? We've been out there, and it took a while for them to come down to the water, and sure enough, there it was. I couldn't believe our eyes. It was just a stunning surprise. It was there with long-tailed finches. They do like to congregate together, and they fly up in the trees. They're quite, happy to just sit there. They do make quite, if you're a photographer, they do make really good subjects. They just sit there. They're beautiful. And they'll sit with others of the same or other finches. And the next picture was the Guldian finch with the female and the juvenile.
Did you see many Guldians there?
Not a lot, but in that little area where we were told, we probably saw about 6. So that to us was a win.
Yes.
Oh, one's a win.
One would be
Yeah,
a
that's right, absolutely. And there's a long-tailed finch down there, so they like to be with them as well. This is a white-tailed fairy wren, the white-winged fairy wren, sorry, and it was found in Cape Range National Park over near Exmouth in Western Australia. It was a complete surprise to us. It just jumped out of nowhere, and there was we saw a few females, but I really wasn't sure what sort of family they belonged to. Anyway, this beautiful bird popped up, and he just sat around for a long time, just hopping around. He was lovely. And there is another species offshore from there, which is the black version, which is at Barrow Island and Dirk Hartog Island, limited to that area. But this one's quite widespread across the interior, but we never expected to come up against it there. It was just a lovely surprise. There it is again. And the females really have no markings that set them apart. They're just nothing about them. But they were quite a big family group, probably about 8 or 10 of them, and just a pleasure to watch. This is, of course, the redback fairy wren. This is the Mamakula wetlands in Kakadu. Beautiful area, big wetland. Not by the time we get there, the water's pretty much getting very shallow, very competitive. But these birds just love the low shrubs as they do, and the female of them as well is quite, just brown, but he is such a star. He's just beautiful. This is the female. That's at a different area. That's at Lake Jabiru, but just the same bird. Just nothing to separate her, from any other female wrens. This is a pair that I caught in the interior of Queensland somewhere, roadside, and there was a whole family of them just flocking through, and my photos are not photoshopped, so you'll probably see more like that where there's just stuff in front. So, but that's how I like them. I just crop them, they're cropped, but they're not photoshopped. So that was a lovely couple that were hidden in there. This was him coming out he was just hopping inside. Actually, it was a gum tree, which was unusual. It was a bit high up as well. But then he came out into the morning sun and he just looked beautiful. Lovely birds. This is a wren from a variegated wren. I know there's quite a few of them, but this one is a female with her red chestnut around the eyes. He's a bit more elusive. Sorry?
With that leaf that looks green.
I don't know.
A new species.
Thanks. This was the male of that group. A bit hard to keep still, but he was very beautiful as well. But the females are lovely too. They're very dainty. This particular one's not a good photo, but I was very surprised. I was in a bus at Mount Tom Price. We were doing a tour of the iron ore mine, and I was looking out the window, just whatever there was, and there was this sort of scrappy bush area, very small, and all of a sudden this bird popped out right in the middle of the operation, just right there. It was just amazing, and several females as well. So I thought, how lovely to see a bird like that in the middle of that sort of operation. The next one was a bit of a thrill. This was, I think it's a striated grass wren. We found that in Tom Price as well, but that was up on a hill where there was a lookout, and we were driving down, and I had my camera in my lap, which I normally do, and my husband just said, oh, there's wrens over there, and I expected probably variegated, and I just shot him, and that's actually through the windscreen. So that really, I don't know how it came out so well, but it did, and it was, I'd never seen that bird before, so it was lovely to get a lifer, as they say. Right, winter kingfishers and kookaburras. This is the lovely blue-winged kookaburra, beautiful bird. We think that's a baby cane toad that it's got in its mouth. They're very fussy eaters. That he banged that poor old cane toad about 20 times at least on that branch to try and, it must be something about, it needs to be soft enough to swallow. I don't.
Do they talk with that toxins on it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem to bother. Yeah, they do. Whether that does something to the toxin and they really do belt it, it just swallowed it. So it seemed to be fine. It sat there for a while, and so I don't really know. I guess they are all right. This is a bit blurry, but that's because my camera doesn't take flight very well. But that's the beautiful colouring of the blue-winged kookaburra. It's just a lovely, colourful bird. Very much a personality. They have a very, you know how we all love the iconic laughing kookaburra. This is a very much a raucous, walking. I can't describe it better.
Heck of a monkey.
Yeah,
Like someone strangling a monkey.
yeah. Yes, any of the above is fine. Yes, and it really does walk a lot, morning and night, but it is a very beautiful bird. Yes. Here it is actually doing the squawking. It was part of a territorial thing, I guess. Its tail was up and its eyes were really wide, and yeah, and this noise. It was about 3 of them, so they're all going on and on and on. This is a nesting hole. We stay at a place called Mardigal in Kakadu. It's about 5 kilometres. If you know Yellow Water, it's about 5 kilometres that south. And we have a small boat, much to a lot of people's consternation because it's small. And it's amongst crocodiles. It's about 3.5 metre aluminium. And we take it out and I photograph birds and my husband likes to fish. So we do take the risk, but we enjoy it. And this is one hole in the tree that we saw. We had nothing to begin with, and all of a sudden the kookaburra flew in, and because you know how when they go in you see just their tail, and he was very attentive parent, and that one flew out, and then another one flew back. And I've since read that they can actually be part of an extended family. They can all, like maybe 4 birds are feeding the babies, which I thought was rather lovely. So that is, I don't know, I can't go down too far because we could quite clearly see his tail. So we didn't see any babies, but they were very attentive parents. This is forest kingfisher. That was taken in Darwin. There's lots of them around. They're plentiful, but you never tire of seeing them. They're beautiful birds. The next one was taken in Illawarra. That's a sacred kingfisher. And I'm sure, you know, that people who go on the boats there just long to see these birds. I think the next one is the iconic one that they all want to see, and there is plenty of them. And the boats are very good at finding birds. They can just fly out of nowhere. You just see this flash of colour, and there it is, just sitting in front of you. It's a very nice experience. Different bird, still yellow water, and they're all waterside, just, you know, overlooking the water where they can see the tiny fish. This one was actually on the railing. If you know yellow water, it's got the walkway. This was just sitting there. It didn't care who walked past. I was probably a couple of feet from it, and it was just preoccupied with looking for something to eat. And I must admit, I took about 20 pictures, but most enough to see, and to get the idea of the beautiful colour of its feathers and his feet. Just a stunning bird. And while we were there, he actually jumped down, grabbed a mouthful of whatever he could get, which was obviously that little fish that's in his mouth, and a whole lot of weed. But they don't actually, from other birds that I've seen as well, don't try to get rid of the weed. They're so conscious of getting a fish in that the possibility of losing the fish for the sake of a bit of weed, they don't seem to care. So it's very, very entertaining experience watching them fish. This is a redback kingfisher, which I hadn't seen before. This was on a wire up in Kununurra, just in one of the main streets. A lot of lovely birds in Kununurra, both in the lake and up in the power lines and the trees just in the town. It's just a lovely bird place. This one's back to Kakadu in yellow water. This one is, of course, a little kingfisher. Very much a prized catch. He's just a lovely thing. He's in the shade there, that's why it's a little bit grainy. They do like to just sit in the background. You have to really keep watch for them flying, otherwise you don't tend to see them. This is another one out in the sun, which gives you a better idea of the lovely colour. And it's only very tiny, very, very small. These are very prolific in the north top end. They're just everywhere. They are mostly in pairs, but sometimes singly, and often can be feeding each other. And of course they're just so beautiful to look at, and very entertaining to watch when they're swooping for bees on the wing. It's lovely to watch. This one caught its dragonfly at Kununurra. That tree was one of the dead trees in the middle of the lake, and he was just waiting for something to come by and swoop down. And the next one is the female came and joined him, but in the time we were there, he wasn't sharing. Yeah, but it was a lovely pair. They're beautiful. This was one that was in the sunlight, early morning sunlight, and just caught the lovely colour as a sheen on his back. It was beautiful. And even when their feathers are ruffled, they're still lovely. This one was at the very same place that we saw the Gouldian finches. While we were waiting for them, these three were on the branch, just trying to keep warm, I think. It was quite cool, very early. And we just sat there and watched them and watched the other birds flying around. And then another one came and joined. The most we got while waiting was 5. So I thought that made colourful photograph. Lovely. I didn't know where to put this one. This is a rainbow pitter, and there's a place outside of Darwin, about half an hour, called Howard Springs Nature Park. And it's noted that's the bird you want to see if you go there. It's only small, it doesn't take you very long to walk around it. These birds can be hard to see depending on the day, and they're in the undergrowth, just shuffling the undergrowth, and you can usually hear them when you see them. And they do make a lovely bird to photograph. But once again, that's in the deep shade, because they don't come out into the sun very often, because that's where they find their food, in the shade. This is a bird, there's another one, I didn't know where to put it, but this one is a crested bellbird. This was in Pilbara. It's got a small crest, as it says, and it's got bright orange eyes. You can't see it particularly there, and it's got a very melodious call as well. But also, it's quite a ventriloquist. You don't quite always know where the sound's coming from. The first time I've seen this one, and another one that I saw, they were actually on the ground. And I'd never seen a bird that looked like that was on the ground. And then when it flew up, I had no idea what it was. This is another one that we found over near Winton in Queensland. There you can see the orange eye, very distinguished looking bird. The female was with him. She has a very small crest and fairly plain coloured brown, beige chest. But yeah, they were pair feeding on the ground. It's lovely to see two of them together. This is a bit of a prize shot, just to actually see the bird. This is the great necked heron. This is the tallest of the herons. It's about a metre high. It's great-billed heron. Sorry, great-billed heron. And when we hadn't really known much about it, and this was at Mardigal as well in Kakadu, and we were just getting up one morning, and it was just about daylight, and we heard this roaring, you'd have to call it like the sound of a bull. And we thought, gee, we haven't seen buffalo around here before, but we thought that's probably what it was. Anyway, we hadn't seen the bird, and we went out on the boat early, and we'd gone looking just for birds along the paper barks, and we saw this bird, but at first I only saw its feet, and it was standing on a fairly sort of twiggy nest, and I couldn't make out what it was. And all of a sudden, it sort of lowered itself down, and that's what we saw. And I still didn't know what it was, and that was about the best picture I got that day. And we went back and looked it up, and the reference in the book says that you can hear it sound like a bull or a crocodile roar. And I thought, goodness, that was a bird. So we're pretty sure it was the bird. It was fairly close to us, so you'd know if a buffalo was around, but certainly wouldn't have expected it to come from a bird. It was the most amazing noise. These are just some others that I've seen in our time up there. Particularly secretive, it's very lucky to get it out in the open. That striping at the bottom of the neck is mating plumage, and you had to sort of get in amongst the trees to get that shot. It's a stunning bird. You can just get a shot here at how long that beak is. It's mainly found apparently along the shoreline at the coast, and I guess that's for digging in sand and breaking open shells and what have you. Yeah, that was lovely. This is a night heron, Rufus night heron, that's in a juvenile state. It's with a pair of Raja shelducks, and that's we find a lot is birds staying together, different species, quite happily moving around, walking around, whether it's for some sort of safety or whether there's somebody keeps a lookout for raptors. I'm not really sure, but we quite often see a mix of species, and they tolerate each other quite well.
And they're not competing for the same food.
This one was one that we actually frightened, but I got got a shot in first, and this breast comes up when it's frightened and walks in this strange manner. That we think is just coming out of its juvenile state. It didn't look as big as the others we've seen, which you'll see in the next shot. It still